This is Northwest Sports Talk with Tyler Noble on City West Community Channel 10.
Hello and welcome to Northwest Sports Talk on City West Community Channel 10. I'm your host, Tyler Noble. Thanks for tuning in. For our focus of the show this month is rugby, and joining me from the Terrace Northman Rugby Club, or Walker, Maine, and Jamie McKinstry. Nice to have the two of you here.
Thanks for having us.
All right, so let's maybe just focus initially here on kind of some of the recent action for your club. A couple of weeks ago, you were in Williams Lake for your first league action of the year, scoring a solid 10-5 victory there. Tell us about how that went and what you thought the key was to winning that one.
It just was a good old solid team game. We really dominated in the forwards part of the game. It was really wet and made it pretty slippery with the ball. Lots of loose ball. Our backs, we have a strong back line as well, and they were outstanding on defense and offensively. The score doesn't really do the game justice. We had a lot of missed opportunities, but because of the weather, it made it pretty tough to hang on to that ball.
All right. Your thoughts on the game?
Yeah, it was a tough game. I think we might have caught them off guard. We've been doing a lot of work. We have a coach this year, so we were a little more organized, and we had a little more of a game plan and strategy going in. So right off the bat, we worked on support, ball possession, and keeping it away from them. They're a big team, so if we can just keep the ball, it's easier to run with it and tackle some of those big boys.
What would you say is the biggest challenge in facing the Rustlers?
Well, for one, when we travel there, it's definitely getting the numbers to travel. It's a solid 9-hour drive. You get there, you play. They're usually bringing players from Kamloops. They have a sister club in the Kamloops Rugby Club, so it's their off season during our season. So they get a strong supporting cast of players, I guess.
So, it's not just for the teams up in this part of the province. I guess everywhere, the commitment that players make to play rugby is pretty significant, given, like people going from Kamloops to Williams Lake to play.
Yeah, for sure.
That's a long way to go for a regular season match, to just play one. What do you do to try to minimize the impacts of the travel, and because that would be a perceived disadvantage, I would think.
Yeah, we used to, when I first started playing with the club, we would try to fit in all of our away games all on weekends. So we'd play Prince George on Friday, and then go to Williams Lake on Saturday, 2 games back-to-back against 2 big teams at home with minimal numbers. That was hard physically to do on the body, so we couldn't bring our best. Now we've kind of divided up. We've putting a little more emphasis on the games and trying to take down a good squad. So we do the 6-hour drive to PG and then the 9-hour drive to Williams Lake separately.
Do you get any kind of practice time or workout time on the road at all, or you just kind of go in hoping to be fresh?
It's pretty fast. Yeah, we get there. We don't have much time. We warm up. We play. It's challenging, but make it work.
In this case, it resulted in a win, so it worked out just fine. Yeah. In general, how's the season going for you guys?
Really good so far. We're undefeated up till now. Looking forward, we're not expecting too many challenges. We played Rupert in our spring kickoff this year. It's kind of a icebreaker game, so it was a lot of learning for them and us. Just seeing how we've moved some players around in different positions, so that went really well. And then of course the Williams Lake game, winning there for the first time on the road for us, so that was good, and it's gone very well so far.
And then you guys were also in Montana for a tournament not too long ago called Maggot Fest, and did quite well there as well. Why Montana, and how did that whole event go for you guys?
Well, traditionally we would go to Edmonton for a sevens tournament, but Maggot Fest is a 15s tournament. We've been working a lot of 15s, making a push for provincials this year. So we wanted to start the season off with a tournament where we can work on all of our 15s play, getting ready for our league play. And down there, we had took a really good squad down. We worked really hard on all the things we learned. And we ended up winning. So we took the best team on pitch trophy back to Terrace. currently in Boston Pizza, so it's a big maggot fest in Boston Pizza.
Right. Well, that really says something, obviously, about the quality of your club. How far away did teams come from that tournament? I mean, were you one of the furthest away teams? What kind of reach did that event have?
Actually, no. There's a lot of teams from California. There's a lot of local teams. A lot of teams from Vancouver. There's some teams from overseas too.
Oh wow.
There's teams from New Zealand that was touring and playing as well. And then they do also have a lot of university teams. The University of Montana Maggots were there playing as well. So the caliber was quite good. We were pretty organized, and it's a social tournament as well. So they're not. The emphasis isn't just on the rugby; it's about just on more of the culture of rugby, playing hard games, and then afterwards just having fun with other teams.
Awesome. I suppose a good confidence boost to have that before entering league play and getting your season off to a good start. Have you had some pleasant surprises from your squad so far? The reason why I ask that is there's always players coming and going, and is anybody sort of jumping out right now for you as far as a pleasant surprise?
So this is our first year with an official coach. So he's done some shuffling, and he's taken some players, some real dominant players from positions, and moved them, and they've really excelled at those positions. So that's been a real pleasant surprise. Just examples like moving someone from the backs to the forwards. It's really changed the dynamic of our team, and like I said, been a real pleasant surprise.
I suppose it is. You talk about dynamic. I suppose it is good to kind of have that third party sort of analysis of the team, as opposed to maybe a playing coach or whatever. Tell us about your coach and what he's brought.
Yeah, so it's George DaCosta. He's really brought us all together as a group, as playing as one. Probably some of our faults in the past were relying too much on individual play, dishing the ball to certain individuals and letting them just kind of do their thing, and hopefully hoping it turns out. This year it's a real focus on working together and playing as a 15-man unit on the field. So I mean that's created so many opportunities for us on the field.
You mentioned playing Rupert already. Let's talk a little bit about that competition a little closer to home. Tell us about the teams in this area and what it's like going up against those ones.
Actually, Rupert, they're kind of having a resurgence as well. They came up. We worked a little bit on R15s against their team, and a little bit of 7 just for them because they're going to a tournament in Edmonton for that. But it's definitely nice having competition closer to home. We do try to do a little bit of home and home because the travel is only an hour and a half, so it's a lot easier. But they seem to be coming along, building a good team. They give us stiff competition. We're so close, so we get a little bit more of that rivalry. That's nice to have.
In terms of depth, how does your squad measure up against those teams? And I mean both in terms of depth in numbers, but also the skill level.
Well, we have 30 registered members, if I remember correctly, as of now. Against the likes of Rupert and such, it's probably a few more on our end than theirs. Williams Lake, they always get a strong support of players, whether they're able to make it to the games or not. We're getting, every year we're adding a couple more players, which is great. The odd year we're losing 1 or 2, but it's usually around that 30-player mark. It's just the travel is the big thing, trying to get most of those guys there. Yeah. But the home games, we definitely have a real good showings.
How much of a factor is size, like physical size of players in your matches?
Actually, it's not a factor unless you want to make it a factor. There's a position for every size. Bigger guys up playing the forwards, the scrums. They do the bulk of the heavy lifting for us. On the back, we're kind of more away from the bigger size guys against guys our own size. So there's definitely a strength and a speed aspect of it. Sometimes teams that are too big are a little slow and they can be exploited, but when they have the ball, it's also tough to get from them because they do have the size. We're finding that we are a smaller team in general, the Northmen, but if we work as a unit, we're very hard to go up against them. Plus, we work a lot of fitness as well. We find that the fitter team is a long game, 80-minute games, so it's a battle right to the end. So if we can be the fitter team, sometimes we can grind it out.
That leads nicely into my next question, and it's about the commitment of being on the team. You talk about fitness. There's obviously having to make practices, just the travel to out-of-town matches. Talk about sort of what's involved in being part of the Terrace Northman Rugby Club.
Well, it's definitely making every practice, learning what the plays are, the play calls. learning to get to know what your teammates, how they react on the field. We've been very fortunate. The level of commitment from our players in the gym, showing up to practices, really dedicating themselves to learning the game. It's been fantastic. So it's really pushed us a lot further than we could.
We only practice twice a week, so it's not too much of a time commitment. It's a very social club too, so it's everybody kind of looks forward to getting out and running together. When we're there, we work hard. And we do put in time inside the gym. You got to be, you work on strength, conditioning, all that stuff. And then most of our practice time is just working on actual rugby skills. So when we're out there, we work on our fitness on our own time. It's good because as you get older, it keeps you, fit and healthy, right?
Yeah.
So there's also a secondary benefit to playing rugby as well.
We are talking rugby with Walker Main and Jamie McKinstry from the Terrace Northman Rugby Club, and we'll have more with these two right after this. Welcome back to Northwest Sports Talk on City West Community Channel 10. I'm Tyler Noble with Walker Main and Jamie McKinstry from the Terrace Northman Rugby Club. In our first segment, we were talking a little bit about how the season has been going so far. In this second segment, though, guys, I'd like to ask you about how you got into this sport, playing rugby, and what you find so appealing about it.
I started playing rugby in the year 2000 in high school. I went to high school in Vancouver Island where rugby was a major focus. I just love the camaraderie, obviously the fitness. It's just getting out there in the air, the fresh air, and just being with all the boys. And it's good.
I started playing at Edmonton in 1995, so I've been playing for a while. I got into it kind of just by chance. My physical education teacher seen I had a little bit too much energy, so kind of walked me out and said, this is an outlet. It was kind of up and coming in Edmonton about that time, and in high school they're trying to build a team, so they're always trying to get that exposure to it. And once I got a taste of it, you get hooked pretty quick. It's very competitive, but also very tight-knit group, and it's a lot of fun to play.
You mentioned in the first segment dealing with some wet conditions in that match in Williams Lake. I do want to ask specifically about what it's like to play in the rain. Depending on the particular field, I suppose, that you're on, it must get pretty darn messy by the end of the match.
Yeah, I mean, it's you can just imagine when the rain's pouring down and the field's got an inch of water on it. It makes it very difficult to hang on to the ball. So quickly the game turns into a possession game. You don't want to relinquish the ball too much. You want nice tight passes. You're not doing those real Hail Marys out to the wings. But it makes for fun.
As far as the physical battles with your opposition too, how do you have to sort of change your approach in the rain?
Pretty much when it's raining, everybody tightens up because that ball is slick. You try to put pressure on the team because just even holding that ball in contact, it just pops out. And the key is just getting off the ground and trying to capitalize quickly. Just try to turn it around as fast as we can.
Now, obviously, in our part of the world, northwestern BC, we tend to get quite a bit of rain. The fields you've played on in this area, both here in Terrace and Prince Rupert, other places up here, how are those fields when it comes to the rain?
Not too bad. I mean, Rupert, obviously, it's a little wetter. So it has its challenges. For the most part, our field in town has been really good. It dries out quick. Williams Lake is a good example. It's usually pretty dry there. The field's usually brown and hard, and so it creates a different dynamic of rugby.
Okay, I want to go a little off the board here with this next question. I noticed a while back you guys were wearing Ninja Turtles uniforms. Kind of neat to see you out there playing sport with those on. Now, what's the story behind the Ninja Turtle uniforms?
Well, in about 2012, 2013, we decided we've been going to this Edmonton Rugby Fest for a few years, and there were some pretty cool outfits, pretty cool get-ups there, rugby kits, and we decided that we're gonna make a kit that really stood out and kind of like our team, real standout. So we decided to go with the Ninja Turtles, and it was a big hit. Couldn't leave those jerseys sitting alone too long. They were guys wanted to scoop them up from other cities. So
I was going to say, I bet that was a bit of a conversation starter when you went to that, and there you are with the Ninja Turtles uniforms.
exactly.
All right, back around 2007, so we're going back down memory lane. You've been with the team since 03, but in 07, the club went through, at that time, it was probably a bit of a turning point for the club to resurge after a bunch of down years. What do you think was the key to getting things turned around at that time?
There's a few things. One of them being there was a couple key members of the club that were back in town. They were out of town for a while. They had gained a lot more experience. They kind of knew what it was going to take to bring guys closer together, not just on the field but off the field. And then the high school program, I think it started back in 08, started up again, and that's just been huge for our club. The boys coming out of school and really wanting to keep playing. It's really the only opportunity they have is to just get into the men's club. And they've been standouts on the team. That's probably makes up half the team of guys that have come through the system at Caledonia.
Right.
So that's been huge.
Yeah, and it's replenishing your roster on a year-to-year basis.
That's right.
Coming from somewhere else and joining this club, what were your initial impressions?
Actually, I was, coming up here, I thought Terrace is a small town. But we can compete with anybody, really. It's one of the better teams I've played with skill-wise. And off the field socially, they are a great bunch. I found, because coming out of town, I didn't know anybody. I just kind of got involved with the rugby club, and instantly a social connection. It's almost like a family atmosphere. You play rugby, you're welcome with open arms. Right off the bat, you have an outlet with friends that you feel like you know them forever, but you just right into the team.
Now, I understand it's a very welcoming group as well. You're always in a search of new people to join the team. How would people go about getting involved?
Tuesday, Thursdays are our practices, 6 o'clock at the college. We definitely encourage people, if they're a little unsure, to just come out and watch. Join in as they see fit. If anything, you can come up, go for a run. You don't have to get involved physically. From there, you can kind of see what we're all about, and then get involved with some social aspects of the club if you want to get into helping out and some outside activities that we get involved with.
I suppose depending on what your numbers are, you mentioned the number 30, I think, in the first segment there, and I suppose that goes up and down over the years, but depending on how many you have, I suppose that gives you an opportunity to kind of work people in slowly too then.
Absolutely does, yeah.
All right, how much do you emphasize working in rookies in particular in matches if you bring a bunch of them along?
Yeah, for the rookies, actually, we've had a couple this year, a couple high school kids, so they're not really rookies to the game, but more to the men's game, a little bigger, faster, stronger guys. We practice hard. We coach anybody with experience, tries to help the young guys out, coach them, give them confidence. The only way to really get into it is to play. And, like I said, every position, you're kind of going up against somebody might not be similar skill because you're new, but same size. So right off the bat, it's not that intimidating. But a lot of times we try to work them in quickly for a little bit of game sense, just get some confidence, let them feel what it feels like, how fast it is. But we do practice a lot. But again, game experience is key.
Injuries, it's a very physical sport. Are injuries an ongoing thing that you guys are having to deal with, or have you been fairly healthy? Are you able to get through most games relatively unscathed? Just talk about sort of how much injury can be a factor.
Some years it seems to be a big factor, other years it doesn't. Fortunately, this year's been not too bad, but it's still early in the season. You try to deal with injuries as they happen, but
and rugby is one of those games where there's not much for equipment, so it's not like football where you can really launch yourself. When you go into a tackle, it hurts you as much as it hurts the other guy, kind of thing. So in that sense, we don't get a lot of big injuries. Some cuts, bumps, and bruises. So usually, unless it's anything, it's usually a mishap that leads to an injury. It's not the gameplay. The gameplay's rough, but it's usually a pretty safe game.
Well, by a mishap, give us an example.
There's always bodies kind of rolling around. So if you get, your ankle rolled on or your leg rolled on, it tends to be things like that. Just because the impacts are big, but there's a lot of technique in the game just because of the lack of equipment. You have to have good technique.
Have you guys suffered any particularly bad injuries?
I've had a separated shoulder.
Wow.
sprained ankles and stuff.
Okay. Yeah, you make that sound like that. The sprained ankle's a pretty routine thing. How about you?
Actually, just no big injuries. A couple stitches, black eye. That's about it.
I was thinking about that. Is that from recent
remnants of Williams Lake down there? Yeah.
Okay. All right. What do you have coming up on the schedule for games and tournaments?
Our next game is home against Williams Lake on June 18th. So I know they're chomping at the bit to get back in the game against us there, and we're ready for them. So we're pretty excited.
Now I understand in years past you guys had some kind of event as part of Riverboat Days. Is that still going on?
Yeah, we're in the stages of organizing that. We usually do a sevens tournament.
Right.
So this year I think we're going to do the same. And as we get further along in the planning, we'll let the community know how that's going to go.
Super. All right, we are with Walker Main and Jamie McKinstry from the Terrace Northmen Rugby Club. We'll have more with them coming up after the break. Thanks again for being with us here on Northwest Sports Talk. Tyler Noble with Walker Main and Jamie McKinstry from the Terrace Northmen Rugby Club. And we've been talking thoroughly about the club, how things are going for them quite well, as we've been hearing. Let's talk about some of the stuff going on off the field. And that is some of the great social events and fundraisers that your club has been putting on. Tell us about some of those and ones coming up.
Right now we're doing a fundraiser. We're selling raffle tickets for the club, and there's a variety of prizes. It's kind of a choose your own prize. We have a trip for two to New York with some spending money, trip to Mexico you can choose from, or actually a trip to Seattle to go see a Seahawks game.
Oh wow.
So it's winner picks. For details you can see our Facebook page, Terrace Northmen Facebook page, and all the details are there.
All right. And I understand your end of year awards in August is quite the event as well. Tell us about how that usually goes.
Yeah, it's held at Boston Pizza. They're our biggest sponsor. They do a real good job. They have us there for the night, and we celebrate the year and hand out our awards, and so it's a real good time.
Now you mentioned the fundraiser at the end of the year awards, but there's also social gatherings that tend to draw a pretty diverse crowd of people. Talk about some of the ones that happen throughout the year.
Every time we have a team come to Terrace to play us, we play a game. It's usually a pretty rough game, pretty competitive, but afterwards we always host. Rugby's all about, we appreciate how far they come. We host them. We usually throw on a big barbecue, have some beverages, just spend the night kind of singing songs, just goofing around, talking the game, talking rugby, just having fun. It's just that we play a hard game and then we let loose after and just have some fun with the club. And they return the favor when we travel as well.
Yeah, you talk about the sort of how you feel about those and how it enhances your experience playing rugby.
Yeah, it's the whole thing with rugby is, you play this game and you battle hard against these guys, and it can get pretty chippy. And then afterwards, it's all high fives and hey, that was a real good hit. It's real. You have real good conversations. Really trying to better yourself in the game, and it's a good, real good social event.
Very good. Okay, well, let's shift gears here now and talk about rugby more generally. Obviously, with the success of your team, it has a pretty good profile locally here, and we talked about the other teams in northwestern BC, but it seems like the sport is gaining more attention sort of more widely. It seems like there's more of it on TV now with more sports channels available to show the games. How do you see the popularity of the sport nowadays?
I mean, it's definitely growing. It's they got the sevens going on now in Vancouver. It's just been added this year. There's rarely you talk to people that don't know about rugby now, which is all new. And with social media, it's just spread like wildfire. It's been really good here, especially in British Columbia. It's obviously growing throughout Canada and North America as well, but it's getting a lot more popular than years past.
Yeah, and sevens being introduced into the Olympics again, so that's been a pretty big push. Seeing the guys, the countries bring out the best players. It's definitely drawn some new fans, and the sevens is it's a very, very fast game, lots of scoring, so that just adds to the excitement.
Okay, well, let's talk more about that now. You mentioned the sevens, the World Rugby Sevens being in Vancouver. That was back in March. You guys were among some of the members of your club that were there to watch. First of all, how does the 7-man version of the game differ from the 15, other than the numbers, obviously? But and then just talk about your general impression of what you saw there.
Well, the sevens, it's seven men aside, 7 bodies aside. It's 7-minute halves. So, a normal rugby game is 15 players per side, so you get 30 bodies on the field. With just 14, it opens it wide open, and it's a fast game. It's the 7 minutes. It seems like, oh, that's not very long for a half, but when you're playing in those 7 minutes, it seems like a long time. It's it's definitely it's completely different, but similar in a lot of ways.
What did you notice as far as strategy with the sevens compared to 15?
15s is more of a grind. There's lots of contact. You're kind of going meter by meter up the field. Where sevens, it's a lot less of the contact. It's about trying to create like a 2-on-1 situation. So it's not as much about just trying to power in. It's about strategy, trying to suck guys in, and then move it to an open guy and just have him sprint the field.
Now, in Vancouver at BC Place, it's an artificial turf. You guys normally play on natural grass. Anything that you noticed as far as artificial turf and how that might have affected the game?
I didn't really notice any huge differences. I know I'm sure the players enjoyed it. It was they're not in the open elements. It's all controlled weather, I guess, controlled surface
environment. Yeah. Okay. Well, that makes for a good rugby, though, I would suppose.
It does. Yeah. You don't have to worry about any a field just not being up to par, maybe wet, guys slipping.
Or like soup.
Yeah. It was very, very quick. Yeah. In there. Very quick.
All right. Now, Canada failed to reach the quarterfinals at that event, but did manage an upset of Australia, which is a pretty quality opponent. What would you say the tournament is something that Rugby Canada can build on?
Absolutely. It's like the Canadian Sevens team is really in the uprising in the world. It's a 8 stops in the year for the sevens. So it's all about building points. I believe they lost 1 game in that tournament. So it's all built towards the end, the final result at the end.
Another big event happening in Vancouver is the men's national team taking on Japan. That's happening June 11th, coming right up. An international test match, 15 versus 15. How do you expect Canada to fare in that one?
Actually, I think Canada will do pretty good. I mean, Japan has also had a resurgence in the World Cup. They had a couple big wins, so their team's building. Canada, though, we do have the grit. We're getting some experience, and it's home turf, so we're hoping for a good showing.
And there are the Olympics coming up in Brazil this summer. What do you think of Canada's chances there?
Canada's got a really good chance of placing high in Brazil. We're very
optimistic.
Looking forward to their showing there.
Yeah, no, it'd be great. I think they'll get a lot of exposure, which is also great for the sport. And there's some tough teams out there, but you only get better by playing the best, right? So I think it'll be good experience for Canada.
Well, and you mentioned exposure. I mean, with the Olympics being in Brazil, a little more favorable for watching on TV too, with the time zone and everything. So it is really a good opportunity in that respect as well. Do you guys have any favorite teams or players out there across the rugby world that you sort of pay close attention to, or maybe even look up to?
Well, obviously, I mean, the New Zealand All Blacks are, I think, a country that everyone kind of aspires to be like. It's just such embedded in their culture, the whole rugby game. So it's pretty cool to watch. Pretty cool.
Yeah, actually, this year, just going down to Vancouver, I kind of really like watching the Fijian team play. They're a big team, they're a fast team. You can tell they're having a lot of fun out there. They're exciting. I kind of got hooked on watching them.
Okay, and just wrapping up here, you touched earlier in the program about the practices and how people can come out and watch the practice. So just a little refresher on that for us, and how people could get in touch with the club if they have some questions, looking for information, etc.
Yeah, it's you can go on our Facebook page. If you do have a specific question, you can just post something on there, or you can come out to the Northwest Community College on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 6 p.m. and we'll be there.
All right, Walker Main and Jamie McKinstry, thank you very much for doing this, and good luck with the rest of the season. Sounding like it's going to be an exciting one.
Thanks.
All right, and before we go, I'd like to thank the folks at Wings Tap and Grill here in Terrace for hosting us for this show, and thanks to Devin Wall behind the scenes at City West Community Channel 10. My name's Tyler Noble. Thanks for watching Northwest Sports Talk.